Alright, today we are taking a look at yet another Gundam-inspired AC build, this time based on the Guntank from the original Mobile Suit Gundam. This is obviously my first build using tank treads and one that I'm certainly proud of. Like my other builds, many compromises were made to create an AC that replicated the Mobile Suit's abilities and paid homage to the original design. I had very limited experience playing with tank treads during my 3 playthroughs, so my abilities going into this video were quite limited. To make things worse, I've got missiles as my primary weapon, which are completely foreign to me. I'm using 2 HML-G2/P19MLT-04 missile launchers for the AC's handheld weapons. Unfortunately, there are no traditional weapon arms in Armored Core 6, so this was the closest I could get to the Guntank's built-in missile launchers. I used 2 earshot grenade cannons to represent the Guntank's 120mm low recoil cannons. There are plenty of suitable options here, but this is what I chose. If you've been enjoying this series, be sure to like and subscribe. Most of you aren't currently subscribed, so any portion of you that do will make a huge difference. For the head, I went with the Varel. This doesn't look anything like the gun cannon's head, but I thought that using one that was covered in cameras was a good replacement for the head-mounted cockpit. You could use the Mind Beta head if you wanted a more accurate look. I decided to use the Firmeza core for this AC. This is a lot more slender than the Guntank's torso, but I thought all the larger options made the arms look too disproportionate. The VP-46S arms would be the perfect choice if you could remove the outermost layer of the shoulder armor, which appears to cover a spherical shoulder joint just like the original design. For the legs, the obvious choice to me was the Fortaleza tank treads. These allow the AC to maneuver at surprising speeds and bring the AP up to 11.6k, which is plenty for prolonged fights. Your goal should be to keep a good distance between you and your target, as you have almost no way of dealing consistent damage at close range. Sometimes you can get away with using the earshots, but you can't really rely on them. The earshots have a super long reload time, so using these weapons with caution is essential. It's hard to resist the temptation of unleashing both cannons as soon as they're ready to fire, but taking your time and finding the right opportunity will lead to better outcomes. Using them individually can also be beneficial, but it won't be enough to crack the empty attitude bar. I found myself struggling a little bit with the missile lock-on system. They've become so unfamiliar to me that I can't help but fire them prematurely, resulting in no connections. I think the ideal attack with this build opens with a volley from both missile launchers, causing the target to dash in one direction. While the missiles are still tracking your target, open fire with both ear shots, which will hopefully stagger the opponent. If this is timed right, the missile should be making contact right after the enemy's attitude bar breaks, resulting in a massive damage bonus. If you're close enough, there might be time for a second volley of missiles before the target starts moving again. For the color scheme, I think the blue I chose here might be a little too bright depending on the source material. This is the main color on the torso and the legs. The secondary color on the legs is a darker shade of the blue for some added depth. The core gets yellow as its secondary to represent the heat vents and a medium red for its waist. The primary color on the head is a muted white with an assortment of grays as accent colors. These are slightly different than the accent colors on the core and the legs. Every color on the arms is set to an identical gray, each with the material set to 30. This gives the appearance of unpainted metal parts as portrayed in the MSV artwork of the Mobile Suit. I used the same combination on the handheld missile launchers to make it appear as though they were one and the same. For the ear shots, I modified the color scheme from Nightfall, bringing some extra life into the design. If I could go back and change this, I'd make the barrels the same color as the housing for a more accurate look. Anyways, I think that's going to do it for the guide section of this video. Let me know down below in the comments what mobile suits you want to see next.